Hey, Wayne Defrancesco here, and it's Masters time, and I thought I might take a look at the swing of former Masters champion. He's 67 now and just about out of competition, but U.S. Open champ, also one of the great players of all time, Raymond Floyd. Now, we watch this swing, and when I analyze it in my standard fashion, when I draw these plane lines, you'll see that it's a perfect example of how talent and ability, golf ability, wins out over technique or lack of technique thereof. It's about putting the club on the ball, and there are some people who can manage to put the thing on the ball no matter what the club is doing in the backswing and starting forward. So Raymond Floyd falls into that category, and it's just interesting to see how this thing works and why it works. You can almost not discern why it works because it's so different and seemingly wrong as far as being off a plane or plane lines that you would normally try to follow. So the first move, you see the club go directly under the plane, so that's pretty common. Back in the day, it was try to keep the club low to the ground, and certainly if the club stays low to the ground, it's going to go under the shaft plane line. Now, as Raymond goes back, the hands begin to roll the club up. So the right arm right here is staying pinched right in front of him, and the club now is what you would call inside. Here I call this position a low club head, and then that most always transforms into a club that's behind you or inside. Now, from here, it's almost a purely vertical movement. So here's the end of the grip. If you watch this baby go up, it just goes pretty straight up in the air. So this is where I normally will draw my second line. So I'm paying attention to the distance between the shaft line and the second line, which is just a place to draw another plane line. So we've got 13 degrees, which is a lot. Now the interesting thing here is that that creates a plane that if Raymond was on that plane right now, his shaft would be pointing upward at 71 degrees. Now I'm going to draw his actual shaft line here. That's at 33, so he's he's 38 degrees flat with his club right now. Now, it's interesting if you look at a Furyk or different players, you'll see shafts that are 90 degrees to the ground and 30 degrees steep. So there's all kinds of ways to do this. Now, the hands continue to lift, and the club manages to go from extremely laid off to where it gets to the top. If we draw this plane line now, you'll see that the shaft has almost made it right on the money there. It's pretty close, slightly laid off. Now, obviously, with his arm up in front of his face, he's going to have to drop the club down somehow. And what he does is he's moved his head a little forward in the backswing. You can see how his weight shifts a little bit in the heels at address, and then shifting more forward, and then when he drops, his head rotates back and the hands fall, and the club actually gets into a nice approach position. You would see from here he'd probably be hitting a little draw, and as the club descends and the hands make up for all this other stuff, he puts the club right on the ball, and it gets pretty close to the shaft plane. And you can see this is the key to all the good ball strikers. The club arcs around perfectly on the forward swing as the face turns down. Hips are up and out of the box. They're way off to the right. Finish is kind of cut off. It looked like kind of a knockdown shot. It looked like a layup hole of some sort here. So anyway, lots of stuff going on there that I would never. I mean, if I was teaching him, if he came to me and said, I can't hit the ball, I mean, we'd be working on a lot of stuff here. Here's a couple of swings worked at Trump International in '99. I had a chance, since Raymond was a member there, he was on the back of the range, and I took a couple of shots of him with my camera. And this is him hitting a couple of drivers. And you'll see a pretty standard setup here. Shaft at 90 to the target line. The head only slightly tilted, pretty centered, both feet out. I mean, these are normal things that I would pretty much teach. And then as he takes it back, you see from this angle it's fairly normal in that in the old days the heel would come up and the left knee would kick in a little bit, but the hips are still good brace on the right side. The hips are generally in the box. Head didn't really move very much, a little bit of a lift there at the top. And then there's the drop move. There's the back up with the head. Now, notice the nice push forward with the hips. So anybody who thinks you're supposed to be spinning your hips to hit a driver, not really. And at impact here, the shaft, you can see that if I draw the line up vertically from the ball, that the hands have bypassed the ball just by a hair. So he's going to produce a little bit of shaft lean at impact here. Now on the backswing over here, this is where it gets pretty funky. But again, this is Raymond Floyd, so it's just fun to look at because I can tell you, vouch that he was killing these balls with a little draw. They were perfect shots, which is pretty amazing when you take a look at what happens in the swing. So here it is, you know, the club stays low to the ground, it gets pretty far behind him, then it starts to lift. The shaft is almost sideways to the ground. Now here we go, up, up, up. Now this is a little more up and across than you would see him. I think he had hurt his shoulder a little bit. He was trying to make a big turn. Well, he certainly succeeded. Both arms way up in the air. Looks like, I mean, how can you hit it from there? Looks like something you'd see on Sunday morning at the club. And not to be disparaging, just it's just interesting to see. Again, you know, I'm not picking at it. I respect him like crazy. But the swing, it's just wild that he was putting the club on the ball and just nutting these balls. Like, I mean, it was just gorgeous ball flight. So, if anything, it's gonna tell you that, you know, the ability to get the face on the ball, in some sense, is a natural talent for some people, and it really tells you that you don't necessarily have to have great form to be a great player, obviously. Now, if you had come to me with this swing and you weren't very good, it would be all about making it more normal. So, and in normal, I mean, we'd follow some of these plane lines and try to get the pivot movement to work a little bit better. But again, Raymond Floyd, great ball striker, great player, and hope you found that interesting.